Two pieces of gaffer's tape which are used to secure these micro BNC connectors. These are the timing and trigger signals between the GPS control interface and the camera. So these are the micro BNCs. And we'll probably clean this up a little bit as we go through. But for right now, I'm just going to gently twist and pull. So there's one. And these are out and they're labeled as such. So just remember that when you put them back. Okay, so the micro BNCs are free. Now I'm going to just, for the time being, set the detector. It rocks a little bit because there's an RS or a DB style connector in the back of it that protrudes a bit. All right. And in a sense, we are partially shortcutting this. This is normally something I would want to do with an ion blower in a much cleaner environment, but we don't have that, so we're doing the best we can. So this, I don't know, what's that, 30 seconds? 30 seconds? Yeah. I believe this is a 3:30 seconds Allen key. So, number one, and these are relatively short, and they're not shanked or anything special. They're just button head screws. And there are no differences in these fasteners. Some cameras have, you have to be careful what order you put in and take out fasteners. This you don't. So there's 4 fasteners removed. And then you have to be careful not to over pull that. Okay, so here is the shutter assembly in front of the camera window. Okay, so the strategy here, these screws are minute, and there is one here, there's one here, there's one here. So it's a 3-point mounting mechanism, and they're teeny tiny things. And I think I forgot to bring either my needle nose or a fine wrench. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to undo these posts, and we're going to lift this assembly off to be able to get behind the shutter assembly. But we're going to need some tooling to do that. Try it. To find a better answer than that. Okay, one other approach here. This is a less threatening strategy for this. And these are all, mostly aluminum, so you need to handle them gently, not over torque. Otherwise, the fasteners get in handy. We've done this on the FLI cameras a bunch of times because they are more prone to being clobbered. And you have to be careful. There's a barrier behind this. If you pull or torque, it will stretch and tear it, and then the seal between the bezel is gone. So you have to be careful with it. I don't know why the hell it's not coming off. Look, you can see sort of first order an immediate problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get a good look at that. So you see the big material deposition, moth wing or hoop or whatever that is, and then lots of particulate contamination. So that's what we're going to try to remove. So first order, I have a clean camel hair brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sweep briskly but lightly across the surface in only one direction away from me. So that's the approach I'm going to use. So I'm going to do swipe one, got the big piece, and one over yonder. I'm going to do some smaller swipes in the same direction, and I could see there was a pile of material there which is now gone. And so I have what looks like an organic deposit right there that I can see. Normally I'd have an inspection light, but I don't have it with me. Somebody else a bright enough source, yeah, that'd be great. That's enough. And I didn't bring my loupe either. So the key to this, if you've never done this, is a unidirectional stroke that clears debris away from what you're trying to clean, and a very, very light touch, because you can actually scratch even sapphire with a brush like that. And I'm on the metal now around it, just taking particulate debris off from inside of it. Okay. Now, this is the judgment call. So that is subjectively clean enough. Okay. And what the remaining deposits on that window will be stable and they'll flat out. I could solvent clean it, but Logan can chime in. My experience is that solvent cleaning that isn't going to improve it enough to mitigate the risk of solvent cleaning. Solvent cleaning, if, for example, it's possible that we could wick IPA in through that seal and behind it, which would be a disaster. It's also possible that we could streak the window, and that's not necessarily a disaster, but it's annoying. So you have to look at this and say to yourself, is it clean enough? And what you need in the end is really just a stable deposition that will successfully flat out. What's hard in flat fielding for cow frames is depositions that change dynamically quickly in time, because you can't flat field them out.
I think you were seeing from the moth wings why it was changing from mount to mount.
Yeah. So there's a part of this which is something like do no harm, borrowed from the HIPAA medical profession. So we want to do no harm. So in my subjective opinion, that's clean. And we saw where we started, and we can see where we are. And I'm, back to, I'm not necessarily the expert here. So if there's other opinion, or if in collegial discussion we wanted to go further, we can.
I agree with what you said. I mean, a wet wipe might, a light, very light wipe would be the only solvent clean I would even do.
Yeah, so that would be, we would take a lens tissue and wet the edge of it, and there's a technique which is basically to take it by the corners and drag it across. That's the least abusive way to do this, but I don't think we really need to do that, so I'm not going to do it. So we're going to call that good. We're going to inspect this, primarily looking for like moth guts or loose shit that might have made its way in there, and I see none. So, and shaking it produces no fallout. So what we'll do is we'll carefully put this back like it was. Possibly. So clearly it's important, you know, not to have wiring run over the vacuum window or something, you know, something like that. And then the lock washers can go back in. And these are Coyne washers, so they actually have an inboard and an outboard side. So they're concave, so the concave end goes down in the hole. And I should probably write this down, but I keep forgetting.
That's why we have it on video now.
So then these will go back. And I generally will start them just light tactile feel to get them lined up. And then I'll go with the wrench.
This will be a bestseller.
So there's one partly started, two, and I do like changing the tire. I will torque them at cross until they're down. And there probably is a torque spec for this, but I have no idea what it is. And so these, basically you tighten them down until they're snug. What this is doing is mechanically pulling down on that and then forming this dust seal. And that, if that dust seal is maintained, it gets less dusty, but it still, you know, it can still go in through the shutter path. Okay, so that's that. And there is technically no orientation to this bezel, but in truth, it usually only fits back on one way.
Well, did you loosen the 3 pins on the shutter first or not?
No, I decided not to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I decided
So that's not a good way to go in then.
Now, the best way is what we just did. With this camera, I vacillate because getting that bezel off sometimes is really hard.
Okay.
So, you know, sometimes it's easier just to accede that and take the...
Right. But I think with the shutter open, you would not have seen the moth wings.
No,
they were out.
You wouldn't have been able to clean it.
Right.
Yeah, you would not have been able to access that to get the contamination out. And again, I'm just starting these and I'll snug them once they're all in and everything's lined up. I hope I have some gaffer's tape over here.
Here's some.
Lost the fastener.
Well, that's just the stuff that was on the
Yeah, we don't need
B and C connectors.
We can afford new tape for our best observers. Okay, that's all snug, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So that, aside from putting the micro BNCs back in place, completes that part of the exercise.
Thank you.